We're back again this week, and for round two with Gary Martin. Gary Martin is the CEO of Australian Institute of Management in Western Australia and has written so many articles that I can't really keep up with so many different articles that hits many different spots. Every time I've read one of his articles, I seem to think, oh, wait, is he seeing the future? Is he actually seeing the future? Because
absolute wordsmith.
He's great at words. And today we're talking about workload scaling. Could you tell us more about what workload scaling is, Gary?
Yeah, look, workload scaling comes about of this flexible places at the moment. People are saying, what people ability, and that could be part-time work arrangement, which people embracing. Some employers are embracing it, and some other things like the 4-day. People are trialing 4-day around the world. 5 days work is the current model. That's it's interesting. I don't think any of those really give us people that are actually looking for something where the peaks and the troughs that fall outside. So it's not just about what's falling outside the workplace. Certain things that we have so far, them to do that, to navigate peaks and troughs, it doesn't go where this thing called workplace. And you get into what it actually is to understand. And the reason why the current years of flexible don't quite work for is because they don't take to us. So in our 30s, 40s, and clash of responsibilities is between what happens in work. At the very time you've got to be at the peak, you've probably got to be the peak, and you have children, you might have to look after in community work, and these things are best in both.
The hardest part from my own experience was that being a father and kids getting sick, and then you're suddenly like looking after them. So it's even around that, right?
Yeah, because they're going to be a priority between those responsibilities and work, and you're perfect almost in both 40s and 50s, and even sometimes. So what happens if we shift to some work up and down? That's the basis of it. Nothing new, because you can always get a part-time. When we talk about workload scaling, we're talking our workload, including could be 20 or 30 people these days, fully retired because of the length of.
And I suppose a big thing now is that we've got the population as well is just growing. So you've got and suburbs and that are now getting more dense with people. There's more housing being built and more people. So it's even taking more time to get from even from home to the train station. All those times are blowing out, and then even people are then getting to work. They've spent all that time in traffic, and just that, then they find a rest. They've got to get into work, but trying to, how like scaling that is even coming into it now. And how can we best utilize our time, and where can we go? Like, what can we do and implement where we use our time?
Yeah, and it's about when or commuting, for example. That's time that you're not spending life type stuff as well. A significant amount over a period of years working life. And what happened when we hit our senior years, I should say, not leaders, but when we hit, all of a sudden, our hands, in many cases, I should say, at the same time, we finished our work. So what is that working period by 20%? But I guess it goes when if that's what you've done, or you've done something, or you're first starting out keen, you've got so much energy that you're going to naturally put in more than. That's what happens. What happens if, for the first 3 years with your boss, that you were going to spend, but 120 flex what you were actually going to do, areas where that happens to a job for the first time, and 100%, 110%. If you were paid to do 100, for example, and then you decide want to do some further study, or a partner spend more time, then you can negotiate workload and 120% get paid. When you find that partner and have children, but you don't want either, so you negotiate down again. You say to your employer, for the next 5 years, 70% of my role, not role. Children off, you're responsible back to 100%. As I said before, so you percent when you get worked hard. Now, I want to go to 80%. Might say and in the 70s. You see what I'm saying is that use of we have a life, but we could smooth an entire lifetime so that we are able to know things that happen in our lives, time or whatever. It's action with employers, or things change, and that you go up and down. If someone says, "I want to go," I don't think so. It's about broad flexibility.
Now, I've seen this. I've seen that some corporations have done something similar in the past by shared roles and just sharing it by. Some people might have it for 4 days, and some people might come in for 3 days. But is there anywhere in the world, or how many other places have actually tried to implement workload scaling from what you know?
Yeah, it's generally not accepted. You could go up and down, and I think might be, as you say, Sandra, people know those things part time. But one of our working lives as ups in that way. We think about our you either work full time, or think about how you might still, there are people that do. We start out, you might work. That's probably stretching it a bit, but you want to get yourself established. Parents dropping back. It's not the norm. It's and and think things to get people to readily accept that we need responds to the ups and there are some consequences in the future, and that in the future, some of those sorts of things. Has anything heard, for example, of a new trend, quitting? Andrew, Sandra, have you heard of that? Quitting craze?
Quitting, what was it? The quitting craves?
Quiet or quietly quitting. A big trend.
Oh, quiet quitting. Yes. Yeah, you put something out recently on this.
I haven't, but I am.
Oh,
Quiet.
okay. Maybe I must have read it. I did see something about quiet quitting.
Is people with their current system doing, you'll see, is apparently the trend is quiet quitting means quitting all of the extra, the basics to keep your job.
I did see this. Yes.
Because at the moment it's so
Cutting back.
hard.
That's it. Not doing that.
Right. Yeah, you're cutting back. You're not doing the things that you might have done. So finish time is 5 o'clock. Well, lunchtime, your lunch to get something out. I'm not going to do that. What about a member who's or another who's overloaded? Do that. You keep your job back on what you do, extras that you've been doing. It's a remarkable impact on our work productivity, job, sorts of things. And it's a response. People need to balance what they want to do. People that they're doing them of their personal at the moment, because it's so to get staff that if you're probably going to get a job. A manager would place. It's as simple as that. But what are we going to do to keep the best organisations? And unless we can twist a little bit, more and more quiet quitters who are sitting but not doing all that to rely on in the workplace.
I mean, I think it'll probably go so far because they'll do the quiet quitting, and then it'll hit somewhere because the business will have to look into their processes and what's happening and where things are going, what time is being spent, and it'll eventually come out is what I sort of predict what will happen. But just coming back to the workload scaling. What is it that I think there's, we raise awareness about it too, but what can businesses do to implement this inside? Because if I don't have a family, I haven't experienced having kids, so I'm like, I don't really connect with those parents because I'm like, I'm here, I'm cool, I'm getting all my work done, it's fine. I don't know what it's like to be a parent. And then that will change later on in life. But I guess having those, what can businesses do to bring that awareness and put these things scaling in place?
Well, I think parenting's only one example. Yeah. In there and design, and so then it comes back to perhaps people who are children, but also singles. Some don't need the flexibility. That's something like this workload scaling or smoothing. There are some people who are very, very busy with life outside of work.
Yep.
And something that runs up what's happening in their personal lives. For employers, these days people will employers rather than one perhaps, two. They might be with multiple. It's more as a collective of business, not about what this has to do to change, to try and get, how can we really make flex, because at the moment people work part-time, for example, work part-time, but they still do full-time work. People still do a lot more than three. They might do 4 days a week. So it's changing the mind workload down, but being open things to employees. So it's not a one size fits when it comes to flexibility. Could be a disaster example of flexibility. So, for example, to 4 or something like that. That we're thinking flexibility with everyone. The bigger picture, not and like fly in, fly to work. It is right across the employers to that flexibility that allows people to respond to their ups and in what happens outside. That's actually what people want. I said, to go back to an example, they might both want. Sometimes the default there is more one works and the other. The parenting both have it for 3, so that it's 70%, so they can manage. We just don't see 50% or 70%, as I said before, that job share, but like it could have it against it.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and especially with the different ages. It can happen in many parts of your life, where what you mentioned with the 30s and 40s, where you end up having children. A lot of people seem to have children around that 30 to 40s, and they tend to not even have the energy, and they have the kids as well, and then it sort of drops down as you get older. And I know a few people that have the 4-day week, as to say, because they're working 80%. They're meant to be working 80%, but they are receiving 100% of the pay. And is that similar to workload scaling, or is that so? Because a lot of people, especially in the northern parts of Europe, have implemented the 4-day week, where they might work a little bit more, but as long as they achieve specific KPIs, that as long as they achieve their work. But it's sort of different with many different industries. It's kind of really hard to sort of implement it in many different industries. It's really a matter of testing this, right?
Yeah, well, I think working week is the answer to problems, and it's not, because UK, where there are 3,000, I think, a trial or a piloting hold that they for 4 days, right? % of the work that you used to do. So productivity. That's squashing for the same pay. Not extra time, just for. That's the model. I think, because people already say they're overworked, and they into again, it does accommodate the ups and downs. I've got a sick mother, and I regularly a working week with the flexibility. I might want to have 50% for the next 2 years. My mother is back, and leave it at that, and then after that 2 years. But our systems are not geared. Our systems are that if you're going to go back to, you're going to have to give up the job, up and down. And then, as I said, when we get a retirement age in the 60s, possibly for some people, if we have our life filled with work, perhaps some of the responsibility, and we could be doing workload scaling, less work. It's actually about spreading it more, and that means that it will continue to. It is a day a week. That's for a longer period of time.
Well, I guess I'll just do some finishing words. Sandro, do you have any other questions to ask Gary just before we wrap this up?
No. I've got other things on other subjects, but nothing in the workload scaling, because I think Gary's put everything out there in regards to the different ages. It's something that we really need to look at. So it's something that we need to look at from a corporation, from a small business point of view, for all throughout, even our schooling. It's kind of, it needs to be looked at. So how about yourself?
How do we overstretching people? How do we stop? Because everybody talks about workplaces, how people are burning out. How do we help people to balance? That's what this is about. Models that we have, they don't necessarily respond to our personal lives.
We'll be able to talk about that, because funny enough, we've got a burnout event coming up on the 15th of September. So that'll be great to have this discussion. But that's the thing too, because even, there's so many different personalities out there, so many different life experiences, that still there's even people themselves, they feel like they just got to get it done. They just want to do it, but they are burning themselves out and forgetting about what's important to them. And before they know it, they'll just burn themselves out, and then that'll be it. So, but yeah, I just want to say thanks, Gary, for jumping on today. Workload scaling.
Thanks, Gary.
We'll throw a link in. There it is.
I've thrown a link in the chats for anyone that wants to see that. It's in the Forbes Africa.
Forbes Africa.
All right.
Yes.
Workload scaling.
And Andrew, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Appreciate it.
Until next time.
Soon.
See you all.
See ya.
See ya.